Hi, welcome to this episode of Chatting With. Today I have been chatting to Connor. Connor is an ex student from the University of Dundee. He's currently employed at Craneware, where he's a software engineer. Today we chatted about hackathons. So Connor's been a kind of big part of our computing society and our computing community during his degree, and he spent a lot of time with his team going out and competing in hackathons, often just for fun, for new experiences. So today we're chatting about those experiences and how that's impacted on his studies and vice versa, and also just the value of having a really strong team to work together. So we touch on how that is impacted in his job at Craneware and why those skills are so important for you to develop throughout your degree programme. Okay, so shall we just start with you introducing yourself, Connor, kind of where you've come from, what sort of job you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. Um, my name's Connor. I'm a software engineer at Craneware. We work on solutions for the US healthcare market, particularly kind of like back office financials. The kind of system out there is very different. So there's a kind of lot to get your head around. But I started off as a computer science student at Dundee, where I did my undergraduate for 4 years and graduated last June.
So you've had a year of fun.
A whole year of fun.
Whole year of fun. Yeah. So how did you end up at Craneware? What was the story there? Did you do an internship with them?
I did, yeah. So I did an internship with them, but before that, I met a software manager at Craneware through my work with Dux. They came up to do a kind of workshop thing. They came up twice, and that's how I met the software manager. And we kind of built up a bit of a relationship. And when it came time to like applying for jobs there, it was I think like my name was a bit more prominent. Went to do an internship there, was there for the summer 2 years ago now. And at the end of the internship, they'd asked if I'd like to come back as a graduate. So I did.
So there you are. So many people get jobs that way though.
Yeah,
like
that's it.
So many people. And it's so nice to hear you talk about Dux, so the Computing Society, because in the last video that I put up, I was kind of saying, well, actually nobody gets hired because you've got a first or you've got 2-1 or whatever. Like success is different for everyone, and you've got to show your passion for the thing.
Yeah.
And I guess you've kind of done that through starting out with Dux and the Computing Society. What was your first Dux event? What was your first thing that you attended?
Oh, as a member before I was on the committee, yeah. I think it might have been like when I was in first year. It must have been one of the social events. I can't remember what it was. It was too long ago. Because there was a year where Dux were quite active, and I went to a handful of those events. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And there was like kind of a peripheral awareness of the committee around the labs most of the time.
Yeah. And then you became this kind of part of the committee.
Yep.
What was it you did on the committee again?
So I was vice president, but only in title. It doesn't. Everyone had titles, but everyone did whatever had to be done.
Yeah, that's so nice. Such a nice presidential thing to say. We're all a team, yeah. Yeah, it is true though, actually, about Dux. It's great because I sometimes would ask them to come to open days, and I would get so many people that show up at open days from Dux, which is really great because obviously they're enjoying themselves, right? They want to come and tell other people about it. So the reason we are chatting today is about hackathons.
Yep.
So you've got a nice kind of breadth of experience from a participant and then kind of organising them, and then with Craneware becoming involved and sponsoring them and stuff.
Yep.
So what got you started with hackathons? Why did you decide I'm going to go to this event and sleep on the floor and drink Red Bull all night and just code stuff? Like what was the draw?
When you put it like that, it doesn't sound particularly appealing.
Well, that's what I see, right? I was nope.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. So the first hackathon I ever went to was RGU University up in Aberdeen, and me and two other. So I was on the committee at Dux at this point, and three of us went up to Aberdeen to do their hackathon because we had planned on running our own hackathon later that year. And at this point in time, none of us had ever been to a hackathon, so we had to go and figure out what we were meant to do. Yeah, so the hackathon that we hosted later that year is like very largely was based off the model we see at Aberdeen. And we didn't really know what to expect. We were in second year. We weren't like particularly strong coders. The three of us had worked together a whole bunch for the past 2 years prior to this. But it just sounded like a kind of silly thing to do one weekend, and it was a silly thing to do. We ended up building like a virtual reality game called Balloon Pit, and it was based on so in RGU they have this kind of like, it's like a theatre, but it's like open plan theatre, and it's like just a big circular room that's got steps down it. It kind of looks like an amphitheatre if an amphitheatre was inside.
Oh, like the one just at the door?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we called it. I think they called it the Bear Pit, or they did when we were there at least.
Yeah.
So we modelled that and put that inside the VR game, and there was like balloons that would pop up, and you had to like kind of click. It was like a Google VR headset. You had to like click to like pop these balloons, and you could move around the room to pop the balloons. So that was like the very first project I've ever done at hackathon.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. They handed out headsets. One of the sponsors handed out headsets that had their branding on it. I think I've got it sat around somewhere. And we were just looking at it. None of us had ever used like Unity or like VR stuff. It was all very new. So we thought, well, it's a safe space to experiment with something. Why not try it?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about that kind of safe space idea.
Yeah.
How competitive versus supportive is it?
I think it's like what you make of it. Some people really like the competitive element of hackathons and like really enjoy trying to win. Whereas there's plenty of people that I've seen who just want to like learn something new. So I think it really is what you make of it, and it's up to like what the goals you've set out for yourself before you go.
Yeah. So you've competed in other hackathons after that.
Uh-huh.
So it was obviously enjoyable.
Yeah.
So you've travelled for them, right?
Yeah, I've been to 2 in Europe. The first one we went to was in Eindhoven, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And then we ended up, this almost feels like by accident, but we ended up in Helsinki to do Junction, which is Europe's largest hackathon. And that
How many people are we talking?
I think it's maybe something like 1,500, 2,000 people. Like crazy level.
Yeah.
The venue space for it was absolutely massive. If you think about it, sorry?
That's a whole building.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was the venue space was larger than the Queen Mother building. It was spread across 2 floors, but it was like much wider, and you couldn't move for people. It was pretty insane.
Yeah. And did you win?
Not that one.
What's the one you guys won?
We won it. The other European one, it was called Hex, and it was set in like an old Philips factory where they used to build like TVs and light bulbs. So it was this kind of cool urban style. It was pretty neat. We built this kind of like marketplace app, and we didn't really expect anything of it. But we had this integration with Twilio, which is a third-party SMS API, and they were there sponsoring. And they just awarded us their prize. And we were sat on the sidelines and kind of like waiting to go so we could go to travel on. And they announced our team, and we were all like bewildered right up on the stage. We didn't know what to say. But the most surprising part was the prize. They gave us all each like a robot. It was like a kind of
Wow.
It was one of the robots from Star Wars, like the little ball thing. I forget its name.
Yeah. I
Um,
have no idea, but I know the
no,
one.
I have no idea, but it was that kind of one, and you could build it up and stuff. So they gave us this box, but because we travelled as cheaply as we possibly could, we had nowhere to put it in our luggage. So the only thing we could do was, so we went up to Amsterdam the following day, and the only thing we could do was post it back home. So we are like walking around the kind of port district of Amsterdam trying to find a UPS office because there's one on the map, or Google Maps says there's a UPS office. And we were expecting like a kind of counter service, I want this to go here. But what ended up happening was we were in like the delivery office where all the parcels coming get sorted and then put onto vans and then around the area.
It's like put it on the van yourself. It's that one over there.
Yeah, precisely exactly that.
Oh, that is awesome. So you went to the first one in RGU, gave you a sense. You kind of plagiarized their idea, let's call it, created one for Dundee.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Because that's a big event to organise.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. And anytime I talk about organise that, I always say it's the most stressful thing I've ever done. Like it far exceeds coursework, like my job now, my dissertation, it far exceeds that.
Wow.
There's so many things to try and stay on top of, and there's so many things that can happen. And there's a lot of money flowing through these events as well, and trying to spend that efficiently and wisely and not running the society into the ground. It's a pretty big undertaking.
So was there a crisis?
Yeah.
Like, what was the biggest crisis that you needed to fix for that hackathon?
There was, so at that point in time, there was some issues with the back door, or maybe that's something else, but there was an issue trying to like secure the Queen Mother building for the event. And like this, in societies that had been and gone, just kind of got it. I think it was before the schools were merged, so it was like a lot simpler just to have access to the building for a full weekend, the full ground floor as well. And we, not me, Gavin Henderson, who was the president at the time, he was doing a lot of work with kind of school management to try and get the fire safety all signed off and food safety signed off. And then it got to maybe like 3 or 4 weeks before the event, and they decided, no, we're not ready to do this yet. So we had to kind of call our sponsors, like, we're sorry, we're going to have to move the event. And making that phone call was pretty heart-wrenching, because a lot of people, these companies have paid a lot of money to sponsor, and it kind of feels like you're being a bit unprofessional that you didn't foresee this kind of thing. So that was definitely like the most stressful moment before the day. On the day, I think just everything was at 100%.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think once these things happen, it's the anticipation that's worse, isn't it, than the actual event? Because one thing happens, you've got all these bodies to help and figure it out. And I guess people, and certainly the students I've encountered, are kind of like, oh, okay, well, we'll just do this other thing then. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be a huge fuss. They're just going to go along with whatever's there, because they don't know what was meant to be planned. They just know what's which is the thing about, you always say about presentations, isn't it? They don't know what was going to be in the presentation. They just know what was in the presentation. Oh, yeah. I feel better now. That's cool. Yeah. So how has that experience been different, shown up as a sponsor then to events?
Well, it's a lot nicer not having to like worry about every single person in the room. I'm not accountable for 300 people, so it's a lot more relaxing. But there's a lot of very different things to think about, because the goals are very different. So as a sponsor, your goal primarily, and not always, but primarily for me, was attracting talent to apply for jobs at Craneware, people who were early in their career, whether it be like graduates or interns. So you're then have to like kind of it's the same kind of physical thing, but you're looking at it from a different way, and you're trying to orientate yourself in a way to do a completely different thing at the event.
Yeah, so I guess my experience, or the thing that I can most closely relate to that, is like recruitment open days and so on.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so like suddenly I went from being the student to being the person who had to convince people that, you know, Dundee's great, and tell the parents that we'll look after your kids and all that sort of stuff. And I was kind of like, am I qualified to make these promises? Like, yeah. I mean, I believe it, right? I know from my own experience that you'll be looked after and so on, but like I kind of feel like I just arrived. I don't know if I'm qualified to make all these claims about what we'll be doing.
Yeah. Precisely the same thing for me. Like, I'd only been at the company a couple of months before I started taking on this sponsorship role, and exactly the same. Like, I don't know if I'm qualified to like speak about the company in this way. And I was always on the stage. In the back of my mind was thinking, someone's going to see this and think, no. That's not right. So yeah, it's that same.
Yeah, it's so funny because like, imposter syndrome's everywhere. And so many of these conversations have kind of gone back to actually how do you deal with that and stuff. So how do you think the hackathon stuff relates back to kind of just doing your degree? Like, what did that add that you wouldn't have if you had just kind of showed up to classes and gone home again?
Yeah, it added an awful lot. I know anecdotally that I've certainly learned a lot. Not necessarily a lot more, but a lot of different things that I wouldn't have a chance to do in my degree. And so the very first project, the virtual reality ball pit game, I would never had the chance to do virtual reality in my normal modules, unless I was trying to seek it out through like maybe my dissertation or something. Yeah. But I'd never had the chance really just to have a quick throwaway sort of thing. I'm never ever going to go back to like Unity or 3D modeling again, but it's nice to have that kind of mindset. Similarly, a lot of other projects I did after that were web-based, and that really built up a very strong foundation of how the web works and how servers and code and the users and the browsers, how they all interact with each other, and that's something that still sticks with me today and in my normal day job.
Yeah, and so I wanted to talk about the team element, because at Dundee we do a lot of teamwork.
Yep.
A lot of group-based kind of projects and assignments and stuff, and it's a very split camp, I think. People who really love it and people who don't love it. And I think that you're one of the people that sort of thrived in that kind of environment, and maybe you had a good team, maybe your personality is just that you like the team thing. I don't know. What do you think it was? Did you enjoy it? Because it seemed like it.
Yeah, I from time to time it had its moments. So I think throughout the degree I had a chance to meet some really incredible and talented people, and then we started working together and we kind of built this rapport, and quite often through my projects I was always working with the same people, and that teamwork was really, really strong, and I think it's because we had the chance to build it up over time. Conversely though, if on some modules where you're assigned kind of randomly, you don't have that rapport, so it's harder to do. It's harder to produce something of as high quality as I'd maybe be used to with the people I'm familiar with. But you're not always going to work with the same people for your whole life. So when you go into industry, the first thing you do is you meet with all these completely new people, and not just that, people who have 1 year's experience, 15 years of experience, 10 years of experience, managerial experience. So there's an okay kind of balance of trying to build your own sort of team and your own rapport, but also how to work out how to work with new people as well. So I don't have like a like an answer either way.
Yeah, no, I just think it's really interesting because you watch some people who obviously, like, I mean, the fact that you spend a whole weekend working with the same group of guys and then the next week it's like, okay, do this for a module.
Yeah.
It's like that's so much more achievable than it might have been if you'd walked into a brand new team of 6 people that you don't know, right?
Precisely, yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool. Yeah, so what does team working look like at Craneware?
That's a tricky question. So the kind of high level overview, there is a product owner who kind of decides the direction they want to take the product that I work on specifically. And that's broken down with my manager, a software manager, who works out high level again what this looks like technically and architecturally. That's then broken down once again where the team starts to get involved in the kind of like fine details of like this part of the code base is updated, this part of the code base is updated to do this instead of this, and we have to be able to extend it to the XYZ sort of thing. Different people on the team do different things. We have one person who's a dedicated Scrum Master, so they're kind of tasked with keeping our sprint board in check, make sure that we're not overcommitting to stuff, that our deadlines are kind of where we expect them to be, and they're also the point of contact for other teams. So not necessarily my team, but if there's teams who work on the wider platform, they spend a lot of time intercommunicating with other teams. So if they've changed something that might affect our product, then the Scrum Master is kind of the point of contact.
Yeah. Cool. So an entire team-based effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's standard, right? It's just very, very rare to find someone working on their own these days, especially as a graduate, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that's helpful for anybody in a company. It's not helpful to put somebody on their own, especially graduate. And even the world's most skilled engineer need somebody to hold them accountable and verify their work. There's a lot the classic myth of the lone programmer in the basement. Just simply doesn't exist. It can't exist. To have like a functioning bit of software, and it's more important a functioning business, it just can't exist like that. The way I write something may not be readable or accessible to another engineer. I may use terrible variable names. I may have nested bits of code that are just loopy kind of stuff. Someone has to come back in the future and fix that when I'm not there. And if I was working on something myself, then it's kind of a lost cause.
Yeah. Everyone always has this like neatly refactor code, and then when you get to the bit when it starts working, you just get excited, and then that's kind of design gone out the window.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. So I want to wrap up by asking you 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
The first one of those is, what's your kind of most, I won't say endearing, but I don't think endearing is the right word. What's your best, I was going to be smart and have a nice word rather than just best, but we'll go with best. What's your best memory of your time at Dundee? Like, what was the bit that you enjoyed most?
I think it was at the very end, not because it was the very end, but the last thing that I was able to do was the degree show. And it was really nice seeing everyone's projects come together, because you'd spent the full year, people were kind of chatting away about what they're working on, the problems they're having, and it was really nice to see everyone's project finished at the end, and like you could go and read their posters and play with their apps and their games or whatever they'd made. But it was really nice just seeing like this big group of people kind of being able to do it at the end.
Yeah, that's cool. It's always a nice fun evening. Yeah. And what's really interesting is that some years it just goes on longer than others.
Mm-hmm.
And some years I'm like, please go home. Like, it's tomorrow, please leave. And some years it's like, boom, 7 o'clock, everybody's out the door. So it's so great when you get one of those years that everyone just kind of blends and mixes.
Yeah.
And my final question is, what if you had to give one piece of advice to a new computing student, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say, so I'm stealing this from a talk I saw once, and I've actually forgot the author of the talk. But it's be the help that you wish you had, is kind of the sort of the words that I go by. I've been kind of lucky that there's always been someone more experienced than me to help me out. I think it's only right that you're there for, so as you move up as a student, be there for other students who are coming behind you to help them thrive and grow and become better engineers, better researchers, better whatever.
That's so nice. Be the help, what was it? Be the help
be the help you wish you had.
Be the help you wish you had.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. That's so profound. I like it. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, so it just leaves to say thanks very much for coming on.
Of course.
This was a chat. And I guess we'll see you again soon because you are coming back to Dundee to help out on some of our modules. So students will get a chance to work on some Craneware related stuff.
Yep. So as far as I know, I'll be back in September. Maybe not physically back, but I'll be there in some form. When I left Dundee, I was always coming back. There was no way anyone was keeping me away.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks
I shall let you get on the rest of your day. I'll see you later.
See you later. Bye.